Their best. Tonight on The Story, we're taking a look at two major issues. A new report from the Oregon DEQ shows groundwater contamination in parts of eastern Oregon continue to get worse. We take a look at the data. But first, the talk of the town, tariffs. Oregon relies heavily on our neighbors north of the border for things like natural gas. So will your utility bills spike as the coldest temps of the season set in? It's our big story tonight. Well, you've likely seen the headlines over the weekend all about President Donald Trump's tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. Now, if you're wondering why are we talking about this here on The Story, well, it's because this could have big impacts on Oregonians, especially when it comes to your utility bills. The president wants 25% tariffs on nearly all goods coming into the U.S. from Canada and Mexico, and a 10% tariff on all Chinese imports. The tariffs on Mexico and Canada are an attempt from Trump to crack down on immigration and illegal fentanyl coming into the country. But earlier today, Trump delayed the tariffs on Mexican goods for 1 month after Mexico agreed to increase their border security. And after a weekend of proposed retaliation, basically a trade war from our longtime ally Canada, Prime Minister Trudeau announced Trump's tariffs will be postponed by at least a month. In return, Canada will increase their border security, just like Mexico. But it's those potential Canadian tariffs that could hurt Oregonians. Local gas companies are already warning customers of potential impacts to their utility bills. Take Northwest Natural, for example, the state's largest natural gas utility, with customers spanning from the Portland metro area to the Oregon coast. Now, they get much of their natural gas from Western Canada. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, more than 1 in 3 Oregon households use natural gas as their primary energy source to heat their homes. And more than half of Oregon households heat with electricity. A spokesperson for Northwest Natural Gas told me today they will be closely monitoring the impact on prices in the months to come. In a statement, the spokesperson said, given the potential negative impacts of these tariffs on U.S. energy users, we hope the Trump administration reconsiders. Now, I also checked in with Portland General Electric today, the state's largest electric utility, which also relies on natural gas for about 40% of its resources. That's according to recent data. A PGE spokesperson told me, we continue to work closely with our peers across the energy industry to evaluate potential impacts of recent federal decisions. The Oregon Public Utility Commission, a state government agency that, among other things, monitors impacts to utility rates, told me today, in part, quote, it is too early, however, to know what potential impacts tariffs would have on power costs or the cost of natural gas. If and when a filing to request rate recovery is submitted, the PUC will protect customers by scrutinizing those requests to ensure any proposed changes are justified. Now, just a couple of hours ago, I talked with Tim Belden. He's the founder of Energy GPS, a Portland-based electricity and natural gas consulting firm. He analyzes wholesale electricity and natural gas markets. Belden tells me Oregon and Washington receive 86% of its natural gas supply from Canada. 14% comes from the Rockies. And unless we do a multi-year pipeline expansion project, we couldn't get more from the Rockies. So in short, we are extremely reliant on Canada for natural gas. Now, if these tariffs go through, he says it is very likely the Canadian sellers would be able to push that cost onto the buyers in the United States, and very likely you.
The market value of the natural gas in the winter that the Northwest uses is about it's about $13 to $15 million a day. That's the market value of the natural gas. And so if you put a 10% tariff on that, you're going to have $1.3 to $1.5 million a day of increased costs associated with the Canadian natural gas.
All right, now we want to bring in live Bob Jenks. He's the executive director of the Oregon Citizens Utility Board. It's an organization that's been advocating for utility customers for more than 40 years, including working with policymakers to try and cut the cost of utilities. Mr. Jenks, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right, let's get right to it here. Do you think Oregonians should be worried about these potential tariffs?
Yes, they should definitely be worried. A tariff is a tax, and if you put a tax on natural gas and on hydroelectricity coming out of Canada, you're directly taxing the heating and cooling of Oregonians. You're taxing both gas and your electric bills, and customers will ultimately pay the price.
Do we have any concept of how high people could be paying, like what the difference could be if these tariffs went into place?
No, we can't. It's hard to project because the tariffs not only raise the price of the things that are directly bought from Canada, but they affect the market. Gas from the Rockies will be able to sell to suppliers in the Northwest for a higher price because their main competitor is a higher price. So there'll be additional market impacts of this that will probably push up the cost beyond just the cost of the tariffs, but it will be significant.
Is there anything that Oregonians can do to protect themselves from financial impact from these tariffs?
The first thing we need to do is we need to follow through on trying to sort of make our utility systems and our regulatory system more customer friendly. We've had about a 50% rate hike on both the electric and gas side over the last 4 or 5 years, and customers have been struggling to afford it. This last year was a record for the number of people who were shut off, who were disconnected from their utilities because they couldn't afford to pay it. So we're asking the PUC and the Oregon legislature to address this affordability crisis that's only going to be made worse by tariffs.
So some utility companies that I talked with today, they're not concerned that these tariffs will impact them. The People's Utility District in Tillamook and the Columbia River told me they're not sure if they'll be impacted. They don't anticipate customers seeing much effect on their bills. What do you make of that? Should these companies be more concerned?
The folks that you were just speaking to are primarily publicly owned utilities that get hydropower from the federal government, from the Bonneville Power Administration, and so for those, they don't have a whole lot of natural gas generation in their electric supply. So they should worry still about the market impacts. If these cause market prices to go up, Bonneville trades in the market, and it could well impact those. But those utilities, publicly owned utilities, will have a smaller impact than, say, Portland General Electric or Pacific Power.
Okay, so you did just talk about it briefly, but your organization is supporting a bill in Salem this legislative session called the Fair Energy Act. Can you tell us more about what that is and what it does? Why should people be paying attention to that, especially right now?
Yeah, after last year where we saw big rate hikes, we saw a huge number of customers be disconnected. We started talking to legislators about what can we do about it. And so the bill would give the PUC more power. It would direct them to sort of consider the impact on customers of their decision. It's really designed to make the customer more central to the regulatory system rather than focusing on the utility. And it would do things like allow them to delay rate hikes outside of the winter, so we're not seeing, like we did a year ago, where we had an 18% rate hike right in the middle of some of the coldest weather we had had in a couple of years. And really saw outrageous bills. So we think there's some good elements in there that will help give the PUC the ability to tamp down on some of these rate hikes that utilities are proposing.
All right, this is an important issue. We will definitely be following it. Bob Jenks, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Great, thank you.
All right, now if these tariffs happen, there may actually be a silver lining for some smaller Oregon utility companies. The general manager for the People's Utility District in Clatsikai told me they don't foresee any negative impacts on them as a company or for their customers. And that's because, quote, they don't purchase power, equipment, or other goods and services from Canada. Our largest customers do not as well. And if anything, it'll make our customers' products more competitive in the marketplace due to the increased tariffs. All right, now to a major update in our Tainted Water series, looking at groundwater contamination in Morrow and Umatilla counties in eastern Oregon. For the first time in more than a decade, the State Department of Environmental Quality released a report analyzing the contamination. And if you've followed our series for the last 2 years, you will not be surprised to learn that the nitrate contamination in the area has gotten worse. Now, if you're just hearing about this, here's a quick refresher to get you up to speed. More than 30 years ago, the state of Oregon discovered a massive aquifer covering 562 square miles near the town of Boardman is contaminated with nitrates. The chemical you cannot see, taste, or smell is harmful for people above limits set by the EPA, especially infants and pregnant women. Many wells in the area have nitrate levels above those limits, mostly belonging to people with low income. In the affected area called the Lower Umatilla Basin Groundwater Management Area, or LUBGWAMA, as many as 4,500 wells have drilled down through the earth to get water from the contaminated aquifer for cooking and bathing and drinking and more. But over the decades, nitrates from farm fertilizer, commercial food production, and large animal operations have seeped down into the water, making the contamination worse. And this new report shows that it's still getting worse. We're going to highlight some of the findings in this near 200-page document, and then we'll hear from advocates with differing thoughts on what should happen next. First, a summary from the report that lays it out pretty clearly. Nitrate leaching through the soil is likely still occurring. Annual median, annual average, and annual maximum nitrate concentrations increased over the 32-year period. The data in the report comes from samples taken back in November of 2023 from 30 domestic wells across the region that you can see right here on this map. For those familiar with the area, the Umatilla Ordnance Depot is in the middle, and the Boardman bombing range is in the bottom left. And here's what the results show. Those different colored dots there represent different levels of contamination. The EPA says 10 milligrams per liter of nitrates or above is not safe for drinking or bathing. Those would be the orange, pink, red, and purple dots. These latest tests show that 18 of the wells are below that threshold, but 12 of them are above it, with one of them, the purple dot right in the middle there, testing at nearly 68 milligrams per liter. Now, if that map doesn't make you think twice about the contamination in the region, DEQ also made a visual showing their data and the Oregon Health Authority's well testing data, helping illustrate just how many people have tainted water. Every orange and red circle here represents a well where the water should not be used for drinking or cooking. And as you can see, there are a lot of them, from Boardman to Hermiston and beyond. And those are just the wells that have been tested thus far. Here's how the problem has gotten worse over the 30-plus years the state has known about it. There are lots of colors and dots and numbers on this one, but I want you to look at the lines through each data set, all of them going up, up, up. That means more contamination. Other interesting notes from the report show that even though the highest nitrate results are in the western half of the region, there's not any geographic pattern they can point to. In fact, results widely vary, even in wells close to each other. 6 wells near Oregon, all within a mile of each other, saw results ranging from less than 1 milligram per liter of nitrates all the way up to 32 milligrams per liter. The report also notes that half of the wells show nitrate seasonality, meaning nitrate levels were typically higher in the spring than the fall. And the depth of wells does not appear to have much impact on contamination. They say some wells show fewer nitrates the deeper they are, but not in a way that can point to a definite way. A weak correlation, the DEQ calls it. But perhaps most notably, the report says land use changes or changing surface activities has the potential to improve the groundwater, which seems obvious. Stop putting nitrate-laden water all over, and the groundwater below can slowly recover. But the report's recommendations don't go that far. Instead, they simply say we need to continue testing and expand the well testing network in the region. Mandating any meaningful changes do not appear to be on the horizon. For decades, the state has relied on voluntary actions to try and stop the contamination. We've seen how that has not worked. In September, the state released a plan to try and get a handle on the problem, but advocates say the plan falls far short.
Now, the state's plan, it's been out for months at this point. It's essentially a plan to make a plan. It is a reminting and repackaging of the same strategies that have failed to bring groundwater nitrate levels down since 1990.
And the new DEQ report comes on the heels of a controversial executive order from Governor Tina Kotek last month, allowing the Port of Moreau to violate its wastewater permit and pump contaminated water out onto the fields in an area because the port's storage lagoons were full. The port said if they couldn't pump that water out, there would be furloughs, layoffs, or potential business closures because companies need to pump their wastewater to the port in order to operate. Advocates like Oregon Rural Action say the timing of that executive order and this DEQ report showing the contamination getting worse is both shocking and confusing.
The interests in the basin are pretty clear. Sources of pollution want to be able to continue the status quo that has allowed them to grow and balloon and spread more of this contamination and profit as they do it. It is in their best interest to continue the status quo. And the status quo, now we have two analyses by DEQ over the course of 15 years that say the status quo is going to continue to make this worse. The people on the ground affected by this pollution need a public health emergency. We've been asking for that for years now. And we know that this has gotten worse since we've been asking for that. We need the priorities here to start to reflect the facts on the ground. And a public health emergency declaration would be a huge step in the right direction.
But there are those in the region who believe the state's plan is the right path forward. That includes the group Water for Eastern Oregon. It's made up of farmers and businesses who operate in and around the area. Justin Green is the executive director. He's the former DEQ statewide water quality administrator.
I've worked in government in 2 different states for over a decade, and I can say with absolute confidence that we are seeing unprecedented efforts being taken by the state, by local government under the leadership of the governor to address this issue. So I would have a strong issue with anyone saying that the actions being taken aren't anything new or unremarkable. These are unprecedented efforts that we are seeing being undertaken right now. Well, farmers and businesses in the basin remain committed to addressing groundwater quality in the lower Uinta Basin. The increasing trends are concerning, but not surprising. It will take time for the work that is now underway to take effect and show results.
So in the meantime, the Oregon Health Authority has been offering free well testing for people in the area. They tell us they've tested nearly 2,000 households in the area, but around 500 have actually declined the offer of free testing. If those tests come back showing high levels of nitrates, some people are getting free filter systems, while others are getting clean water delivered to their front door. All right, now it's your turn to weigh in. Should the state be doing more to curb this contamination? Why or why not? Anything surprise you in the DEQ's new report? Let us know. Email the story at kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. All right, coming up next on the story, parts of the Oregon coast saw some snow today, but do we need to be ready for a winter wonderland right here in the Portland metro area? Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino is back from his weekend on the slopes, and he joins us with an updated forecast. That's when the story returns. Welcome back. Chief Meteorologist Matt Safino joins us now. Matt, what is the latest with the snow?
Yeah, well, there's snow behind me up at the Oregon Zoo.
Okay, look at that.
Look closely, and not the fake stuff on the rocks in the mountain goat enclosure there, but if you look closely, you'll see a few snowflakes falling in the air. There was a little bit there a little while
I
ago.
saw that one.
Are you rooting for snow, Blair? Just curious.
Oh my gosh, normally I would be, but driving in the snow in Portland, Oregon is it's a challenge. Let's just say that.
Yeah, it's a rodeo.
Yeah.
I mean, it just gets nutty. So
yeah.
I feel you on that for sure. But up at the zoo, 37 degrees. So while there's snowflakes in the air, it's not cold enough for any of it to stick even there. And that's at 6,000 feet. Generally, up around 1,000 feet is where we're sticking snow. Blair, you mentioned that I was up on the mountain this weekend.
Yes.
And it was interesting driving back because there was snow all the way down to about Sandy. Sandy, Oregon's about 900 feet elevation, but it wasn't impacting the roads once you got off the mountain itself. Even at like Zigzag and Rhododendron, there was snow on the side of the road, but not on the road.
Oh, okay, because you were worried about that a little bit.
I was, yeah. I thought it could really be a disaster. I didn't go up Saturday morning, so I don't know how bad that was. But coming down, it was slow. It took a while because there was a lot of traffic and the road was icy, but everybody seemed to handle it okay. All right, meanwhile, right now, we've got rain showers and some snow showers up over the coast, well, really, the West Hills are kind of an extension of the Coast Range.
Sure.
No, they are. They connect. See, they connect all the way back over. So there you go. Made that connection there, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Scattered showers coming our way tonight. Nothing major. The time that we're watching that has the best potential for bringing snowfall to the valley will be during the day on Wednesday. But even that, I'm not super stoked about in terms of a widespread, all-out accumulating snowfall on the valley floor, and the modeling generally supports this. Now, this is one of our high-resolution models, and it shows Wednesday morning, not even half an inch, a little less than half an inch in the West Hills, also 3/10 of an inch in the valley, 4/10 of an inch down at Canby. Not a lot to get excited about, not enough to really get, what's the name, like salt and straw thaw.
Okay.
Plowy McPlowface.
Okay.
Peabot just named their plow.
Oh, yes.
Those are some of the winning names.
I'm with you now. I'm on your page. Okay. Is this snow going to stick or no?
No, that's the thing. I mean, this is showing like less than half an inch, so I don't think it'll stick. Some of our more aggressive models are showing more snowfall than this. I'm not showing you those because I'm not believing in that. And I don't want to give people a false sense of snow. So you can see even through Thursday morning, we're at a half an inch in the Portland area. Places like Vernonia, the Oregon coast even, and certainly the Cascades and the Gorge will get snow. It's snowing in Parkdale right now, and in fact, lots of other places around, just a bit of elevation. But we'll see that uptick in snow showers on Wednesday, but I still think the valley accumulations are unlikely. Now, as we get into tomorrow, we'll be within 24 hours of Wednesday, and we may get some new information that may change our tune on that, but right now, I don't think so. Up in the Cascades, Timberline's got snow in the air. 19 degrees, 6 inches new, right? Just great skiing conditions.
How was it skiing up there?
It was good. It was really good. It was nice to ski on some new snow after the January, hard pack and crust that we experienced for like 3 weeks. So yeah, it was really delightful. Nice and cold, good snow, really, really great. Let's check out some of the pass cams though. The passes are covered in snow. This is Sandy Am Pass. Totally covered in snow. This is Willamette Pass, a lot of snow. And I don't have a picture of it because the ODOT camera is down. But Siskiyou Summit, that's I-5 going south from Oregon into California. Super snowy right now. In fact, the traffic is backed up all the way down to Ashland because of all the trucks putting their chains on. You can see them, right? So that's a problem here. I don't know if anybody from Portland that's watching us is going to go down I-5 overnight tonight, but they're getting a lot of snow in southern Oregon and northern California, and that's going to continue there. We're 40 degrees. Let me get to the 7-day forecast for you real quickly, Blair. I know you're short on time, but just scattered showers of rain or snow tonight. Watching Wednesday carefully, but even that, I'm not super stoked about a widespread valley snowfall.
All right, Matt, thanks so much. We'll be right back after this. Well, that is the end of our show, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Straight Talk is coming your way next. And don't forget, everyone has a story to tell. The story is available at any time on our streaming app, KGW Plus. Download it for free right now. Available on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. In the meantime, enjoy your Monday night, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow night at 6:30.